Hi everyone. Today I'm going to go through the first of the Chapter 2 labs on histograms, which again are done in StatCrunch, and we're going to use the data window. So I want to show you how to manipulate different graphs using basically MyMathLab's version of Excel. So I've got the lab uploaded here, or I guess downloaded from MyMathLab as a Word document. I'm going to go to my course here in MyMathLab and go to StatCrunch. And then we're going to visit the StatCrunch website, and we're going to open StatCrunch here at the top. So this is the data window for StatCrunch. It looks just like an Excel spreadsheet. And the first thing you want to do in this lab is copy and paste all of the data. So in this case, they are the United States, including the District of Columbia. And then the second column is the number of high school graduates from 2008 in thousands. So, for example, Alabama had 41,300 students graduate from high school in 2008. So we want to copy and paste, and the best way to do that is to start in the upper left cell of Alabama, again excluding the titles of the columns. So I'm not copying and pasting state and public high school graduates. I'm going to start in Alabama, and I'm just going to highlight down to the very last one, which is 5.5 for Wyoming. I'm going to let go of my mouse. Anywhere in this grayed area, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to click Copy. And then I'm going to come over into the first cell of StatCrunch, so row 1, variable 1. I'm going to make sure my cursor is in there. And I'm going to hit on the keyboard Control and simultaneously the letter V. And it will, so Control V is the paste keyboard command to put that data set into StatCrunch. So there I've got my two data columns. And that's essentially the first direction on my lab here, excluding the titles of the column. Copy and paste the data below into the first cell of the StatCrunch data window under variable 1. Okay. Now, from there, we're just kind of setting up the workbook just like we would in Excel. I want to name my columns. So clicking on the actual name variable 1 here will highlight it, and you can edit it to say state. And clicking on variable 2 will edit that to be 2008, public high school graduates. And we'll say in thousands. Awesome. Okay. So we've got our columns labeled. From here, we're going to create two different types of histograms. One is what we call an auto-fit histogram. Just given the data, what is kind of a generically created histogram, that the program will define for itself. We'll put some parameters on a different graph and see how they compare and how they contrast. But I'm going to put my cursor up here in, again, the first column, the first cell. So Alabama is highlighted. And we want to click Graph, scroll down to Histogram. And a lot of students miss this. Even though it looks like we're pulling data from that first column there, you want to actually click on where it says 2008 public high school graduates. Make sure that is actually highlighted, because then it'll push it over into this second dialog box. So that kind of makes sure that you're picking the right column of information. I know it's the only column of numeric information at this point, but if we had multiple columns going on, we want to make sure we're picking the right things to put in the histogram. We're going to leave the where and the grouped at options optional, and the type is still frequency. The start at and width for the bins, we're also going to leave those optional because this is an auto-fit histogram. We're just going to let the program create it for us and see what it comes up with. We should maybe display the values above the bar, see how everything is being binned, mark the mean and the median, and other than that, that's pretty much all we're changing here. So just make sure that the 2008 public high school graduates column is physically clicked on so that it appears in the second dialog box, and then do your display options and your markers. Hit compute. Okay, so this is our auto-fit histogram. Part of number 3 is that we want to copy and paste this histogram into our document. sometimes this option button, you can hit copy here and then right click this and save the image and then copy and paste it over there. A lot of computers, I haven't really seen any lately that don't have this function, but a lot of computers have like the snipping tool instead of trying to copy and paste it. I just come down here to my search bar and hit snip, S-N-I-P. There's the snipping tool. I click new, and then everything looks kind of grayed out. Your little crosshairs, you click and drag to select the portion of the screen that you want to copy. So I'm going to start up here in the upper left-hand corner of my graph, click, hold, and move the cursor until I have captured one I want to capture, and then I let go. So that I can then copy and paste. So then I click edit, copy, and over here in my Word document, Control V, will paste that just like it would an image. So I can click on it, I can navigate it, make it square, in line with the text, move it around. I can do what needs to be done. Okay. So this is, again, the auto-fit histogram. So this is kind of what the StatCrunch Excel data spreadsheet just comes up with it whenever we don't give them any parameters to begin with. So I'm going to close, I'm going to close this, not save it. And I'm going to close this histogram. I want to create another one with some parameters attached to them, and I say the word parameters loosely. I don't mean things involving the population. I mean just with some guidelines that's going to maybe shape the histogram a little differently, bend the histogram a little differently, and we're going to see how that compares to the one that was auto-created by the program. So we're going to make another histogram using the same data. I'm going to make sure my cursor's up here in the first column, first cell. We're going to hit graph again, histogram, make sure that my column is selected. We're going to leave the where and the grouped by again as optional and the type as frequency, but this time I'm going to manipulate where the bins start and stop. So I want to go a little bit below the beginning of the x-axis. I'm going to have it start at -50. Obviously, I can't have a negative number of people graduating, but it kind of gives me a little bit of shift away from the bins to create that start of the axis. The width of each class I'm going to designate as being 100. Okay. Now I'm still going to click values above the bar, my markers as the mean and median, and then I'm going to hit compute. Okay. So right away, I mean, we can see, some apparent difference between the one that was created by the program and the one that we created, specifying where to start and where the bins, how big the bins are. The main difference here, obviously, is the gaps, right? I have very obvious gaps in the auto-created histogram. Here, I've got kind of a smooth-looking graph. One thing I might also observe is that the shape itself is preserved, right? So even though I've got some user-defined characteristics on the histogram that I just created, overall it is still a skewed right graph, right? The majority of my data is here to the left, and I've got a tapering tail to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one as well. Snip. New. Click and drag, let go, edit, copy, and I'm going to put it under number 4. Awesome. Okay. So from here on out, we're just kind of doing a little bit of analysis here. From the user-defined histogram, so the one that we just copied and pasted that didn't have any gaps in the histogram, we want to go ahead and tally up the frequencies for each one of our bins. So the first bin was from -50,000 to +50,000. Our frequency there, all of them are displayed above the bar. So I'm just typing in my frequency for each one of these classes. 30 states fell in that first class, 18 states fell in the second class, 1 state in the third, 1 state in the fourth, 1 state in the fifth. All right. Now, questions 6 and 7 are there's no really right or wrong answer to them, but they are going through that process of comparing the two graphs, maybe making some explanations to certain shapes or, why we have this tapering tail to the right. What I want to jump down to is number 9. Instead of a histogram, let's try maybe creating a different visual effect with a dot plot. So I'm going to go ahead and close my snipping tool and close my user-defined histogram. We want to create a dot plot in the exact same way. First cell is selected, graph. Dot plot is kind of towards the middle of our menu selections. We're going to select the column again for public high school graduates. We want to change the plot size a little bit, or the point size, because we want to make sure we can actually see these dots. They are kind of small, so I upped it to a point size of 5. And I want to deselect allowing the points to overlap, right? So deselect overlap on the points. I want to see every single measurement, every single state, where exactly it's at on the dot plot. So make sure you unselect allowing the points to overlap and then check your markers for the mean and the median. Hit compute. And this one, maybe we want to expand a little bit. Make it really visible, the overall shape of our graph here. And I'm going to copy and paste it just like I did before with my snipping tool. And we're going to put it right here under number 9. There we go. All right. So the cool thing about looking at different graphical representations of the data is you can really make some interesting observations about the overall spread, the variation, and the shape. I mean, it's obvious from the histograms that we've got some really high outlying values, right? We can see it in the AutoFit histogram. There's gaps between some of these larger state graduates here compared to the user-defined histogram. So there's a very clear right skewness to the graph. It's even more apparent in the dot plot, right? Look at this dot that's way up here to the right, right? The gaps in the dot plot are even more pronounced than just simply making different bins in a histogram, right? Here the gaps are all the same size because our bins are all the same size, all the class widths are equivalent. So going through and creating different visual graphical representations of the data can really help us get a better overall picture of what we're seeing here. The dot plot still displays that skewed right look to it, right? Everything is pretty much grouped down here to the left, and then we've got this tapering tail to the right. So however you want to word that in number 10, just make a few observations about this dot plot, how it compares to the histogram, maybe what it adds to understanding the data in a different way by plotting it this way versus as a graph. However you want to word that, however you want to say that, just make a couple comparisons in number 10. So really the point of this video was, again, to go through showing you how to copy and paste the data set into StatCrunch and using those different graphing buttons to create some visual displays. So let me know if you have any questions. Again, we're going to save this file, save a copy. I'm just going to put it on my desktop so I can find it to upload. Changing the file extension here to my name. Whoops. And we're going to hit save. And I'm going to go back into my MATLAB, course tools, document sharing. We're going to click on the folder that says lab submissions, and we're going to work on uploading the document. So I hit upload, I find the file, make sure that I'm sharing it with the instructor only, and then I hit upload. So thanks for watching. Again, let me know if you have any questions, and we'll move on to the next Chapter 2 lab instructions in the next video.